Hello, I'm Dahl Russell, and today I'm going to be talking about the carol, Jesus Christ, the Apple Tree. I personally have found it interesting that there are several carols that compare Jesus to an apple or an apple tree, and of course others comparing him to a rose. It did not take me long in looking things up to find fascinating charts about the symbolism in Christian art and architecture, and entire books have been written about it. So I will just give you some brief thoughts about this. We can talk about the Victorian interest in fairies and trolls and mythic creatures, and it's worth mentioning that alongside those ideas, and sometimes even combined with that, was an intense fascination with the language of flowers. There were various meanings depending on your intention. The language of flowers for love and courtship, the language of flowers for food and presentation, and the religious language of flowers. And of course, we can, of necessity, see an interplay and various combinations of pagan mythologies and Christian usage as we're talking about these nature elements. Not surprisingly, this meant that there were variations or contradictions in some of these codified languages. An example comes up immediately with the aspen tree. One legend has it that the aspen was the only tree that did not bow in sorrow and respect when Jesus died on the cross, and because of its pride, its leaves were doomed to constant trembling. Another legend claims that the aspen was the wood chosen for the cross, and when the tree learned how it was to be used, it began to tremble with horror and has never stopped. I see these differing versions as something that's quite similar to the lyrics of historic folk tunes that can sometimes have 40 different verses over time, as well as completely different versions. They can have plentiful potential verses, or they can have the same melody with different lyrics, or similar but different lyrics. It only takes a moment to think of all the nature, flowers, and fruits mentioned in hymns and symbolism. The vine, the wheat, the holly, and the ivy. The cherry is often mentioned in hymns and represents the sweetness of good works. Like the apple, the rose has a dual nature. White represents purity, red represents martyrdom. And of course, a wreath of roses is symbolic of heavenly joy. And we often, especially in Hispanic art, see Mary wearing a wreath or a crown of roses. We see intensely different but collateral meanings of the apple. When shown in Adam's hand, the apple symbolizes sin. And actually the fig is sometimes used to replace the apple in the tree of knowledge because the fig has so many seeds. And when held by Christ, the apple represents salvation. So clearly in this hymn, Jesus Christ, the Apple Tree, the apple is tree, flower, and fruit, religious growth, potential, and ultimate salvation.